Hello and welcome to Back 40 Bushcraft. For those of you that have watched any of my previous videos, I'm in the midst of creating a winter bush camp, and one of those aspects was of course grabbing an old canvas wall tent. And for any of you that have been watching my videos, I've also been working on a homemade wood stove out of an old metal jerry can. Now, as you can see right there is that's a 2.5-inch exhaust pipe that I had bent to accommodate the wood stove. I'd just like to show you. One of the unfortunate things, I took the jerry can, the wood stove out this morning, and I was hoping I could do it by just leaving the pipe in there. Now look what I've got to deal with. Got some extra rip, and I knew that was going to happen. I mean, I know that it's fragile right there. I think if I just do some good heavy-duty stitches, that should prevent it from doing anything like that again in the future. That is an IKEA channel beam. The one for our bed collapsed, so I actually just took a section, and it digs right into the ground, so it's actually fairly supportive. You know, I don't want to go banging around too much. I bought the exhaust pipe at a local muffler shop here, Midas, and in Nelson. Something I've done is obviously I was having some issues. I knew it was going to get hot and all that, so what I've done is I've collapsed a section of 6-inch pipe as best I could, and then just haywired it as tight as I could, so it's probably about a 5-inch now, 4.5, something like that. And then I just drilled some holes and used some machine screws just to set it in the center. You know, the purpose of this whole thing was to do it as economically as I could, and you can buy these, I believe they're made out of silicone. They're called stove jacks that go into these tents. But it seems like they're all about $100. So I thought I would try my own little fix. And like I said, I will have to do some stitching around here. And maybe at some point along the line, I'll end up having to get a stove jack. Now, as for the wood stove itself, you see that it all comes in here. Oh, look at it in all of its glory. So initially my goal was to use threaded pipe, because the nozzle of these old jerry cans is threaded. Unfortunately, the 2.5-inch pipe had to slide over top of that my initial sort of 6-inch threaded pipe, and what happened was the creosote made its way to the outside of the pipe and down the wood stove, and I kind of anticipated that happening. So they were able to weld a little nub onto this 2.5-inch and flare it, so it actually just pops in there, and it just fits in there slick as can be. So that seems to be a good fix. It isn't threaded or anything like that, but I think at this point I'm pretty happy with the way that's all turned out. As for the stove and the door and the assembly, as you can see right here, I went and just chachied in, riveted some metal and bent them out a little bit so that I've made my little damper. You know, it works fairly well. Would I have liked something better? I think even at this point, in hindsight, I think something that hinged and just dropped down probably would have been an even easier fix than what I've got going on there. You know, I've only ever seen one of these jerry can wood stoves before, back in my days living up in the Yukon. In the 90s, and a guy had one like in between his seats in his old Chevy van or Dodge van or something like that, and I was like, oh, that's slick, I'm gonna do that someday. I just of course I've done all this without any kind of welding at all. I'm not a welder, so I wasn't even gonna bother trying, so everything has been screwed and riveted. I've made my own little flanges just to rivet so that I have an edge for the door to go against. And then it just slips over there. I figured I'm going with the easiest thing I could come up with. It's just a little door hasp, just like that. And I'll tell you, once I get it all on there and get all this happening, it actually slows down. I can get a pretty decent burn out of that. You know, you're not going to be putting massive logs in this. Again, I'm in a little, you know, 9 by 12 wall tent that's going to be essentially a bed all along the one side to accommodate all 4 of us. That's my spouse and my 2 kids and myself. And then there's going to be just a little bit of room on this side to have some kind of little bench. Maybe if it's nasty weather up in during the winter, then, you know, we'll put the stove in here or something like that. It's nice that I can flap a window up, so if I do have a little cook stove right there, you know, the fumes of the cook stove should be able to go out. So I'd say everything for now. I'm all kind of set down here on the lower lands, and I'm a bit bummed because my car had to go into the shop. I was subject to a hit and run this summer up at the Caslow Jazz Fest, and so now I'm just sitting here waiting for my car to come back, as well as watch the snow line just continually come down and down and down. I still have at least another day of excavating up there and maybe falling some more trees. I think I've got a cat climbing up my tent. Kitty, get down! Look at this! Oh yeah, there he is. Wow. Oh, there you are. Yeah. Hey, go around. Huh? Go around. Look, the door's open right here. See, I'm not sure if you can even hear that. Oh, that heats up fast. Yeah, it's going to be winter. I'm going to have my gloves sitting right by the stove here all the time anyways. I don't usually do this without my gloves on. And yeah, so that's my final installment of the jerry can wood stove. Hope you enjoy. Feel free to subscribe or like my video. There will be more.